Hey guys, I'm Dom D'Amato. We're at the Butte Mineral Museum in Butte, Montana. Butte Mineral Museum has a few thousand specimens on display and over 13,000 in their collection overall. And this is one of my favorites out of all of them. It's the Big Daddy crystal. It's the largest known smoky quartz that's been discovered in Montana. It weighs 398 pounds, and it was found in 1994 by Ed Laird and subsequently donated. And I mean, it is just a massive crystal. The termination is partly restored because, I mean, you're bound to have damage on a crystal of this size, but it really is just a humongous specimen and one of the best smoky quartz to come out of Montana. And so for our first case, we have a bunch of various Montana minerals from all over the place. Starting over here, we've got a quartz from the PC mine, and there's probably 4 or 5 really nice Japan Law twins right on there. Again, on the back left, there's a really nice big one, and then there's 2 right in the middle that you can't see too well. But that's from PC, which stands for Pocket City. That mine produced probably the most Japan Law crystals I've ever seen out of Montana. It was one of the most prolific mines in the area and was mined really heavily by Chris Van Leer. Next to that, we have a huge smoky, which is actually from Lolo as opposed to Homestake. The luster on these smokies is super exceptional. It's kind of similar to Swiss material minus the clarity on some of them, but really nice smokies out of Lolo and Homestake Pass in Montana. If we move down here a little bit, we've got a big titanite, and that is going to be from, I believe, the Gem Queen mine, which was in the north of Whitehall, and it was mined for smoky quartz, titanite, big, huge feldspar crystals, and I believe that was mined by Martin Pruitt in the mid-20th century. And if we keep going down here, we've got some nice amethyst. These are going to be from Toll Mountain, which isn't your typical location. I believe if they're from Toll Mountain, they would be from the Pondorf mine, as opposed to being from a mine like Little Gem Mine. So those are going to be some of the smoky amethyst scepters that are somewhat typical of Montana. And let's go up top here to these barrels. There's one emerald and one just labeled barrel, and these are both from Montana, one from Dillon, one from Superior. The emeralds are actually very untypical from Montana and come from a single location, but I have never been able to find the location or really great crystals of those barrels. Up here is actually a really cool parasite as well. You don't really see those on matrix all that much, and that's just perched right on some sort of matrix. That's a big old garnet from Homestake Pass as well, which you don't really typically see. Most of the garnets you see in the area are from skarns. And that one looks like a big one that's most likely not from the skarn, because those ones are much smaller. That barite on calcite is from Carter County. Those come from concretions in the Bear Paw Shale. So those are actually nodules that you break open, and there's a bunch of calcite and sometimes barite inside of those. That's a big vanadinite from Montana, from Broadwater County. I've actually never seen vanadinite from Montana, and that vanadinite pyromorphite series is a weird one, and pyromorphite's very rare from Montana, and I have not seen any vanadinite besides this one specimen, which is pretty exceptional actually. And then another interesting one from this case is the spinel, which is from the, I believe, the Crazy Sphinx mine, which is going to be near Helena, Montana. The color and clarity isn't great on them, but they really do have exceptional form. So this cluster right here is the Rihanna star cluster. It was dug in 2006 by Zach Johnson and his young daughter, who would go around on rock hounding trips with him. This specific cluster was dug from near Delano Lake, Montana. Came out of was 4 by 6 feet, so it was a pretty decent sized hole for the area. The story of it is that they were kind of digging down and they were finding pretty big smoky quartz points, and once they got to the bottom of the hole, they found this massive cluster where there were points attached and some points broken off. Over the course of 2 years, he extracted the cluster and the rest of the pocket, and after it was fully extracted, the cluster was reconstructed and eventually donated to the Butte Mineral Museum so that people like us could appreciate it. So this case is all specimens from the Little Gem Mine, which is in Jefferson County, Montana. The Little Gem Mine is a pegmatite that's been producing amethyst for, upwards of 100 years now. There have been reports of miners digging back there in the early 20th century, and it's still producing massive amounts of amethyst. As you can see, these specimens are not small. They are all quite large, in very good condition. They have really unique forms to them, lots of skeletal overgrowths that have the amethyst on them, dark smokies with amethyst overgrowth, some just amethyst growing on feldspar with really good colors you can see on this one. Receptors are super common. Also, large single smoky crystals are common from the location. These are all on loan to the Mineral Museum from Russ Hage, who's the owner of Little Gem Mine. And I'm not sure how long he's been working the mine, but he has pulled out some of the best amethyst to come out of Montana in the past 10, 20 years. And a lot of you are probably familiar with this mine, but maybe not with some of these massive, exceptional specimens that come out every once in a while that aren't very commonly seen. Especially because specimens like this typically stay either in the collection of Russ or in Montana in general. So in this case, we have some more Montana minerals accompanied by minerals from elsewhere, but we're going to focus on the Montana ones for this case. So the first one, we have this just awesome allanite. It doesn't specify what rare element enrichment there is in the allanite. It just says cesium, calcium, and yttrium. So that's not specified, but with all allanites, you can assume that there's about 20% rare earth element, which is a lot by weight. And right next to that, there's a super lustrous epidote. Most of the epidote from out here is not quite that lustrous or forest green. It's more of a, almost more limey green, but that is a dark and lustrous one from Jefferson County that is rarely encountered out here. Next to that, well, actually down the line a bit, we have a huge apatite crystal from out here. There's only been a few finds of apatite in the Boulder batholith, and as far as I know, that's one of the larger ones found. Most of them tend to be skinny and very elongated prismatic ones, and this one has got a lot more width to it, and it's big. Then below that, we have a humongous smoky quartz scepter. That's most likely from the Homestake area. It almost actually looks like it's from the Bozeman Gem and Mineral Club's claim. I have a buddy who found one. Slightly smaller, but very similar in form and look to this one. And over here we have some pretty nice amethysts from Crystal Park, some scepters, some normal amethyst points, but good color for the location. And if you dug at Crystal Park, you know that the digging is not the most difficult, but finding crystals like this is definitely not easy. So this case is probably my favorite at the Mineral Museum. It's a case of all minerals collected by Chris Van Leer. He was a local Butte collector who died in, I believe, 2015. But he found some of the, most unique, awesome mineral deposits that I've seen in Montana. He's been a big inspiration to probably a lot of people who rock hound in the state, and he's had some super significant finds. Up front, you can see this huge black tourmaline. That's the biggest black tourmaline I've seen from Montana by a long shot. It's just probably about 7 inches long and just thick, a really nice one. And behind that you can see the huge smoky quartz that just dwarfs the tourmaline even. And those two are from Montana. But the majority of the specimens from this case are actually from Idaho. If you look back left, there's going to be a smoky with feldspar, a smoky with topaz, and a nice beryl. And those are from different areas in the sawtooths. And then up top in the middle, you have the humongous aqua. I mean, that thing is probably my favorite specimen that I've ever seen. It's about 7.5 inches from Ardith Lake in Idaho. If you've read Chris Van Leer's reports on Mindat, you have probably seen the picture of him holding that right outside the pocket. And it is just a honker of an aquamarine. And then you have this beryl just to the right of it from the East Ridge out in Montana. And that's very rare to find gem grade beryl in Montana. In the time I've lived here, I've seen, one find of beryl, and it wasn't nearly gem grade, so that's a very significant find. And then on the right you have smoky quartz on twin feldspars. It looks like big Bovino twins kind of holding up a smoky point. And then a few scepters from Montana that are some of the other minerals in this case. But yeah, Chris Van Leer was a big mineral collector, geologist, mineral salesman in Butte, and he's very well known in the area and collected some of the best minerals to come out of the state, in my opinion. So in this next case, we have more Butte minerals, and on this top shelf is going to be all sulfides. We'll start with this crazy covellite. You can kind of see the bladed crystals, crazy iridescent colors all over it. It's got golds and blues and yellows and purples. And usually you kind of see those big masses where they're all broken up crystals and kind of looks like ore, but this is some great crystallography on those. And then this chalcocite. It's a small chalcocite, but it packs a punch. It's got perfect form. It doesn't have any iridescence, unfortunately, but still, it's got one single crystal kind of perched right on the middle, surrounded by a bed of smaller chalcocites, and it's a really good specimen from out here. So here's two more chalcocite crystals. We've got a small sixthling on the left and a cluster on the right. That sixthling probably realistically came off of something similar to the cluster on the right, but as you can see, they're really well-formed crystals, sharp striations, sharp points, and just well-formed for chalcocite crystals from Butte, especially because most of these ended up getting crushed up. We've got more Butte sulfides, starting with bornites, which is often found coating the chalcocites out here and kind of gives it that iridescent look. And then we also have these energites, which are great. The wurtzite next to it is commonly called wurtzite, but lots of times these wurtzite crystals are actually pseudomorphed by sphalerite. So it's hard to distinguish those two apart unless you do some sort of advanced testing like XRD or XRF. Then as we go in here, we'll get out of the sulfides and get into these carbonates. But there's two really great specimens of rhodochrosite from Butte. Much gemmier than the typical stuff from the Emmamine. Usually the Emmamine kind of has a soft pink color with a lot of siderites. But these rhodochrosites are really gemmy, almost have that sweet home luster to them, and they are from Butte, Montana, most likely from the Emmamine. Although all those mines kind of get muddled up in history because the miners brought these specimens out and lots of times there was no provenance associated with them, so they just kind of called them from whatever mine they were working at. So these next two cases we're going to look at are from Raymond Thompson's collection. Raymond Thompson was a geological engineering student at Montana Tech, and he graduated in 1941. And he went on to work for a number of mining companies. Later in his life, he ended up donating a significant majority of his collection to the Butte Mineral Museum, and these next two cases are going to be a good representation of that. Here's a huge fluorite cube from Elmwood. That cube is probably, 6-7 centimeters wide and perfectly formed all around, sitting on that small bed of sphalerite. Just a really nice example from Elmwood. No cleaved corners, perfect condition, nice, almost a yellowish color in the core with those purple corners. Really, really good specimen from Elmwood overall. Then look at this willemite from Suameb, just that bright seafoam green color. It's just really exceptional. You can see the gemminess in it. Really exceptional specimen of willemite in general. Don't really see them this large from Sumeb too often. And here we'll head over to the second case. We'll start down here in the middle with this neptunite. Really, really nice lustrous neptunite crystal sitting on naturalite. It's a nice contrast between those two minerals. Next to it we have this crazy calcite from Bergamot, England. Two nice crystals growing from the base. Really gemmy, good luster for the location. Not quite glass-like, but very nice. And this one is probably my favorite adamite I've seen in a while. It is large and just the color is outrageous. Really, really nice electric yellowish green color on that limonite matrix from Ojuela. Here's a sweet rhodochrosite from Silverton, probably from that Silverton tunnel. It's got some pale green fluorites on top and just nice reddish pink rhodochrosites. They're a bit covered with that milky pink layer that's somewhat typical for Silverton, but really overall great form, nice fluorites as well. So here's a cool one. This is going to be a quartz and arsenopyrite and sphalerite from Japan. Usually you see those smaller single crystals from Japan, but rarely do you see clusters with both arsenopyrite and sphalerite. And this is a really good example. It's got good crystal form. Some of the quartzes are broken, but overall it's an excellent specimen from Japan, especially since specimens from Japan are somewhat rare. Here's a great specimen from Santa Rosa. And that's a bit of an atypical color for Santa Rosa. Usually you see those blue-green colors, but this is going to be a nice pink, pinkish red. So here's our next case. It's mainly minerals that actually aren't from Montana, but we're going to focus on the Montana ones. And as you can see, it's in a big old safe from the heyday of mining out in Butte here. So on this top right, we've got another crazy covalite specimen. You can kind of see, hopefully, the bladed crystals on it. It's actually quite aesthetically pleasing for a covalite. It almost looks like it has two ears on the back, left and right. The blades are a deep metallic bluish purple color. Not too much iridescence on this one. Yeah, really well-formed crystals. It looks like there's minimal damage. And thankfully this one was saved from the ore crusher. And that one's from the Geidel collection. And down here on the right, you can see there's it's almost like a large gold flake. It's thicker than a normal flake, but it is really nice. It's got good color. It's from Broadwater County out here in Montana. And it was donated by Eldon Smith. That's a good sized gold nugget for Montana. Lots of times the gold out here is much smaller. And down here in the middle, you've got the Highland Centennial Gold Nugget. And that's one of the 10 largest gold nuggets found out in Montana. It's 27.495 ounces, which is pretty hefty for a gold nugget. It was found in 1989, and it was donated to Montana Tech in 1991, which is a pretty generous donation, considering the size and value of something like that. And then down here, we've got actually a super interesting gold specimen from Revenue Flats in Montana, and that's from about an hour east of Bozeman, gold mines that were active in the 19th and 20th centuries. And this is a specimen on some quartzite from Revenue Flats. The area is actually well known for mineral collecting in general, and the gold mines are all closed down up there. Then if we go up to this hematite from Brazil, it's not going to be a Montana specimen, but it is a humongous, beautiful hematite with great growth marks, mirror luster, and it's got to be probably 7-8 centimeters tall. Really humongous specimen. Malachite after cooperite from Chessie. Two raw diamond crystals, which were also just great. One of them is twinned and one of them is a regular crystal. And then in the back there, you've got a diamond crystal on kimberlite, which is super unique and rarely seen.